The moment that you think that you're doing it for the money, it's not going to work. And the moment that you start to judge your success by the money that you're making, it's really bad.
I remember the look on my mother's face when I said, I've decided what I'm going to do full time. If I'm going to work full time, I'm going to do something I love, and it's in the arts. And it looked like I had drained all the blood from her face.
Get over people judging your art. Just stop judging yourself.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Whatever the case may be in your part of the world, this is the Emerging Artist Podcast. I'm here with Shiree Ingram, and I'm Scott Markowitz. And we've got a special treat for you today, don't we, Shiree?
We certainly do. We have a very accomplished local artist here in Naples, Florida. We have Tracy Gurdian with us from Tovari Designs. Good morning, Tracy.
Good morning. Good evening.
And we're at a wonderful local coffee shop this morning.
Yeah, shout out to Acopio Coffee here in beautiful Naples, Florida. And if you're ever in town, this is the place to go to get your coffee and your double shot of espresso.
We're all set up. We all have coffee and macchiato, and we're all ready to go.
We'll be speaking quickly by the end.
That's right. It's kicking in.
Well, Tracy,
thank you so much for having me, and a pleasure to be here and speaking with you. We all should be supporting one another and having conversations like this.
I agree. And maybe we could back up a little bit and explain how we even know each other. It's actually cool. I know there's a lot of debate with artists whether or not they should be on social media or not.
Yeah.
There are definitely pros and cons to both. And in our situation, this is a positive thing about being on social media because that's how we know each other.
We met on social media. You know, artists, I feel, tend to live in our studios and we don't really have a big social life. At least maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I tend to get wrapped up in my work. And it's really hard for me to commit to social events. Then my social life isn't there. However, I tend to get more connected with people that I might be following online, which is how I met you.
Yeah.
And that's a plus to me about social media because I met you that way. And I think that's really great. When you're not the first person this has happened to me with, I met two other people that turned out this way. And this is why I encourage all artists to do this. I actually met somebody in Japan, and this is what a small world this is. It was, I'm a potter, which we'll speak about later, met on social media, and we were following each other, and lo and behold, a few years later, I was going to Japan to study kintsugi, and I was next to this he is half my age. We probably it wasn't like you and I we have similar interests. What does somebody half my age have in common? But we have art in common. I'm going to Japan. We were right next to each other. And I thought, I wonder how weird it would be if I was like, he was actually an American studying. Okay. He had been going to college there forever, years. So we actually met. We went for dinner and he speaks Japanese. And I got a tour of the art studio, the pottery studio in Japan.
Wonderful.
He showed me Japan. And this is all because we met on social media. And I've met other professors of 3D molding in Appalachian State University. My daughter was going to apply to that college. And we ended up meeting this person there. This is all through social media. You just never know who you're going to meet. And I feel like it's a great way. You should look at social media as just an opportunity for yourself to make money. It is actually to connect with people. I just don't look at it.
Yeah.
It's not. It's going to disappoint you. I always see these people and they have 500,000 followers. And listen, don't fool yourself. That doesn't equate to money.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I really enjoy the connection. I enjoy people. And also, don't think that everyone who you see their art on social media, don't think that they're selling tons. I'm just so happy to have met you because we live in the same town. We know the same people. And one day I think, I don't know, what did we say? Let's meet for coffee or come over. I think I invited you to my studio. I don't know how this all happened.
We had been DMing back and forth. I know, like different times throughout. I don't even know how many years we had been following each other, but you did such amazing and unique art. And I always loved your pieces. And sometimes we would direct message each other that way. I was in Sedona.
That's right.
And I fell in love with Sedona. You saw it on social media. You direct messaged me about your time.
My time
in Sedona. And then we had this instant connection with our love, both Sedona. And then I asked if I checked to see if you had a studio.
Right.
And to see if I could come meet you at the studio and see what you were doing.
I think a lot of artists are really shy or introverted, and they don't take that next step to actually meet, or what's the next step? Like once you meet somebody because it's like when you're in social media, you have this false wall up. Okay. Right. So how do you take that next step, whether it's networking, like you want to get your art into this business, or you want to connect with that person? That's always been, I think, an issue with people because it's so easy when you're just typing.
Yeah.
And I find a lot of people don't want to take the time, or I'm busy, or, oh, now you want to actually meet face to face. Because, I don't know, to me, it's not as fulfilling to always just be typing. How useful is a connection if you're just typing? We have all different levels of friends and connections, but sometimes, every once in a while, it is nice when you do meet somebody that you're like, wow, this person really could be somebody in my life. So I just do encourage people, if you do find someone, maybe it is nice just to try to connect with them.
Yeah. I was going to ask you the same question, Tracy, but to answer your question, though, I think it starts with having the intentionality, right? As an artist, we do tend to be introverted. We do tend to want to hide ourselves away from other people in our studios and behind our work. So I think it has to start with just that simple intention of, I'm going to try to reach out to another human being at least once a week, or whatever it is, once a day, once a month.
I'm setting, right? Ask. I just feel like with my business itself, I asked a lot. I think that's the main theme. We often think things in our head, or we wish, or we want, or we have these goals for ourselves, but then we never put it out there. And just put it out there one time, have to fail or try a lot. And I don't just mean 5 times, 10 times, a lot. And then you learn. There's no way you're going to learn if you don't fail. And if you're scared of rejection or failure, then I don't really think you're going to get better. So I think you're going to get better connections the more you do reach out to people. You'll be surprised.
Right.
And don't give up if you don't hear from them. I started out in ceramics. I was doing ceramics for almost 25 years. But when I started ceramics, I had been practicing, I should say, or really studying ceramics for 10 years. And it had my ceramics journey went through so many different iterations from, I was taking class for 10 years, and my first goal was, okay, taking class from 10 years, I would like to be in a gallery was my goal first. Doing some sort of sculptural work that would be in a gallery. And I remember my teacher first saying to me, I think you're ready. And I thought, really? And in my head, I remember thinking, if I could just get in this one gallery that was in this Venetian village here at the time, it was really beautiful, I would feel really happy. And so I took some pieces down there and they were like, we love them. And I was like, oh, that was really okay. So I started on that journey of being in a gallery, but then after that journey, I started traveling a lot in Europe, and I realized, wow, a lot of Europeans are, if you go into, my passion is eating. Eating.
Eating is good.
I loved how they were going into these high-end department stores. I loved that the high-end department stores and the fine dining, they were using ceramics for the fine dining, like handmade. Mm-hmm. So you would go into luxury department stores and you would see one-of-a-kind pieces, and you'd go into the fine dining, and I'm like, oh, I love this because I love to cook. I love to eat. And if you think about having ceramics as a canvas for all of this, is brilliant. I thought it's brilliant. Like, this is amazing. Like, this would be so fulfilling to me. But how do you, like, at the time, I didn't really see a lot of that here. Like, you know, I didn't really go into Bergdorf Goodman's or Gumps in San Francisco or places and see that a lot. And so really, at the time, I was working with Judith Liégeois, who's a really amazing interior designer downtown.
Is. Yes.
And she was like, I think you should talk to Bergdorf Goodman. I don't know. I'm like, see, she's a go there. So, you know, I flew there. I flew with John, my significant other at the time, and we flew to Bergdorf Goodman. And I'm like, how do you even get a contact? Like, you do that. And so she's walk around there. And I flew to Bergdorf Goodman, and we walked around the store, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, this place, this is amazing. I'm like, they have very unusual pieces, but they did not have a lot. Like, they had one-of-a-kind pieces. And I'm like, I just need to talk to someone. And what I did is I brought with me, I had this, when I think back on it, I'm like, oh, this looks really bad. I had what you would compare to a modeling comp card, like an artist comp card.
That's
okay. And I pulled over the salesperson, and I just showed her my card, and I'm like, I'm just looking to talk. I'm in town from Florida, and I'm trying to get in touch with your buyer. Gave her this comp card, and all I was there, like, my purpose was to get an email address, because I wanted just to go home to Florida and to nonstop email this person.
Yeah.
So I gave her my comp card, and I did get the email address.
Wonderful.
And the next year, I kid you not, for a year, I emailed this person every week with pictures for a year. And then I got a response that they had been getting and looking at all my pictures, and they finally liked it. And after a year of sending them emails, I finally got my first collection with Bergdorf Goodman. And I continued to do collections with them for a couple of years. And after I got my first collection, Kravitz saw my pieces in there. And then I got Tovari for Kravitz, and then I got Tovari for Gumps. And so have to never stop.
Mm-hmm.
Persistent. Yes. Yeah, being an artist definitely takes courage, doesn't it?
It takes courage. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's so many things in that story that are important to recognize how difficult it is to get into a situation like that. So first of all, you recognize that you had to have some kind of proximity. If you wanted to go to Bergdorf Goodman and have your pieces sold in that store, there had to be some kind of physical proximity. So you physically flew there, went there, not knowing anybody, and you walked the sales floor and you flagged down a salesperson who I assume you intuited would be sympathetic to you.
Exactly. You do have to know your crowd.
Yeah.
Exactly. And also, I also feel as an individual, I think we all have to pull from your skills in your entire life. we all know what we're capable of. Just because you're an artist doesn't mean that you don't have some business sense or some natural capabilities. In my past, I was a teacher, we've all done all kinds of jobs to survive. And that's probably led you up to the moments that made you who you are. Nothing is for naught in the past, okay? And it's probably going to make you successful. I worked retail for 10 years and paid for most of my college. And it really gave me the skills to, I think, communicate with these people, because then once they called me and said, we really like to talk to you, and I had to fly back to meet with all of their buyers. I think it really gave me the capability to say, it was a little daunting to go fly back to Bergdorf Goodman, go into a meeting and be able to tell them how I actually didn't really have a plan. Like, what am I going to produce? What's my cost? What are we going to do? This is a business plan.
Right.
Okay. But I worked retail for 10 years at the time, not knowing how this was going to help me in the future. And our past really does make up our future. Stay-at-home moms are really running the country. A stay-at-home mom, you can build a business off of that because you know how to run a household.
Right.
You know how to do finances. You know how to run the world. Seriously, you take all of your skills of everything that you know, and then you just confidence and never second guess yourself, because everybody will. Everyone's going to tell you no. You have to be the only person that's not going to tell you no. Even if you have a little bit of a doubt, just don't let that creep in, because art is subjective. Okay? Oh my gosh, I love it when my piece is hanging. I love it when I watch people in a gallery, even if it's not my work, but I love going to a gallery. Go to a gallery. This will show you. And watch them walk by a painting. Watch them walk by an amazing painting. And you'll see people, and they'll listen to them say, I don't like that piece, or I don't get that piece. And then the next person will come along and they'll say, this is incredible. So it just goes to show you, don't take art so seriously. Don't take yourself, get over judgment. Get over people judging your art. Just stop judging yourself. There are people that will not like what you're doing. That doesn't mean that you just need one person to like it.
Exactly.
Right.
You need one person to buy it and love it. But yeah, the key here, because I will ramble, is to really be persistent and be passionate about it, because I'm very passionate about 3D art, that it really brought me into a place where I was doing ceramics for so long and painting on ceramics for so long. You know, how can I expand and paint? I started off, actually, before I was painting on ceramics, I always painted. And I thought, how can I even paint on larger pieces? And it really brought me back to canvases, which is, I'm still exploring right now and doing a lot with plaster and canvases, and back to the galleries again right now, doing gallery work. I think that you have to also have the passion for it. The moment that you think that you're doing it for the money, it's not going to work. And the moment that you start to judge your success by the money that you're making, it's really bad. Van Gogh did not sell a lot of his paintings. He sold a couple.
Yeah, not much.
Paintings.
Yeah, I don't think he sold an awful lot. But,
No?
But I think a lot of people might be listening to this saying, well, that's easy for you to say. Like, how do you actually remove yourself from the money? Because money is so important.
So important. And you do have to supplement. Listen, I'm divorced. And I was really in a panic. I am just like everybody else. I need money. And broke artist, and really did not want to say, well, I'm going to give up my art and not do art anymore. And what can I do? There's always something you could do. took home a bunch of children. I have a studio. I had equipment. So, as many kids I could fit into my studio, I walked children home from my kids' school a couple days a week, and they took classes from me, ceramics classes, after school. And that way the parents didn't have to pick them up, and they would come for a few hours, make ceramics. It was probably the happiest time of my life because these kids were more creative than I ever could be. Interesting is this. Art is so therapeutic. And the children that ended up in my class, what's so funny is parents would say to me, my child, they were having all this disciplinary problems in school. They're like, are they okay? And I'm like, they don't even make a peep. Talented. Yeah. So the children that I was bringing home to my class were not only the most talented, but they were struggling in school. And so it just really made me so happy. But I still run into them as like young adults today. And they'll see me, they'll say, oh my gosh, I still have that piece I made when I was in elementary school. And it shaped them. There are ways, if you're struggling, if you really think hard how to get creative, if you stop panicking, I should say, because I know the reaction is to panic. I'm not selling my work. I have no income. What am I going to do? Teaching is great. And that way you can still be immersed in your art, and you can also get clients from it. I find that you pick up clients by doing that.
Shiree, is that something that you've done in the past? I know that you have taught people how to run a business, but have you explored the idea of teaching kids?
I have taught some in the past, not for money.
Okay.
My son is autistic, and so he's been to a lot of schools here in Naples for autism.
Did you say your son's autistic?
He is.
I used to teach children with autism.
Okay. Oh, wow.
I didn't even know that. Before we had programs here in Naples, I used to teach the autism program. And by accident, they didn't have a program here, and I was hired to do it. The arts are great for children with autism.
I chose, oddly enough, like the wrong medium. So I just did it like a 2-day.
What did you do?
I thought they might enjoy something hands-on. So I had canvases, and I had palm fronds, real palm fronds, and plaster. And I thought they would enjoy taking their hands, putting the plaster all over the canvas, and imprinting the palm fronds issues.
Yeah.
Kids were having a hard time with the plaster on their hands, and then they didn't. Those that thought they wanted to wear gloves didn't really want to wear gloves because you couldn't handle the sensory issues with the gloves. Yeah. But it was very fulfilling. It was very rewarding. I enjoyed doing that. And this idea about making money as an artist, if you choose, that's what you want to do as a full-time career. And that's where, for me, it hasn't necessarily been the art on canvas, but it's been through the decorative wall finishes, and
the murals.
So that is what has made my steady income.
Yes.
And being willing and open to learning in different avenues of faux artistry, which is a huge spectrum. You can do wood graining, you can do marbling. A lot of the things that I know how to do is just simply because somebody asked me if I was up for figuring something out. I feel like a lot of the work I do is solution oriented, to make things disappear. And so, like the wall plates, I'm obsessed with the wall plates.
But
murals
are amazing.
Thank you.
In particular, there's a lot of income to be made in murals.
Yeah. I have quite a few murals coming up too. And possibly one of my biggest ones here locally that I'm very excited about. It's 25 feet high. It'll be an entryway of a home, so I'm looking forward to
They're beautiful.
Working on that. Being open to different avenues of art and teaching. I do love teaching.
I love teaching.
I think is a great way it's very fulfilling to help another artist. And no matter what their goal is, whether or not they want to try to have that be their main source of income, or if it's just something that they enjoy and they are fine with just having a little side income from that.
Yeah.
Do you feel that so let's say you're an artist and you're talking about you've been divorced and you have your kids you're taking care of, and I understand, I went through divorce myself and going through that panic mode of, oh my goodness, I'm a sole supporter. And I remember the look on my mother's face when I said, I've decided what I'm going to do full time. If I'm going to work full time, I'm going to do something I love, and it's in the arts. And it looked like I had drained all the blood from her face. She was not impressed. That's what I was going to do. But I was 100% committed, like you're describing, and you flew to New York and I flew to Seattle to take classes. And so I incorporated even before I went. I knew I was going to do faux painting, and that's all there was to it. I was very determined. Even moving down here to Florida was a big thing for me too. From Montana to Florida, I came here with one job and I didn't even think about like doing other work.
You have the right mindset. And I think you're right. You have to determine. And you know what? You are correct. Because I did the same thing where I got a trademark immediately.
Wonderful.
So I thought, you know what? I've just celebrated my 10-year trademark.
Congratulations. Wonderful.
And it was hard to keep the trademark. So you have to apply I got it myself. So Tovari celebrated their 10-year trademark. And when you go into department stores, I thought, you have to have a business plan. And when I started Tovari, I thought, ooh, what if I'm in a department store and here I'm in Bergdorf Goodman, and then I was in Kravitz, then all of a sudden I was in Gumps, and I'm like, and here you have Tovari, and then what if there's somebody else opens up a Tovari, and then you're like, now I have to pull my product?
Oh. Yeah,
so listen, everybody out there.
Okay.
I'm just going to give you some advice before you start. Might be something to consider, because what's really interesting right now is I did this Google search. When I first started, I thought I was making up this fictitious, interesting name because I'm combining my children's name, Tova and Ari.
I love the name.
But guess what? There are a lot of companies out there now called Tovari. I was making this up. Ceramics company internationally in Europe. Now, I think they started after me, but they cannot infringe because I have a trademark. I did this search on Sunbiz. In Miami, there's like Tovari something, Ernest Borgnine, the actor, his wife has Tovari Cosmetics.
Oh, wow.
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, what the heck? Nothing is like a novel idea anymore. But, of course, when you do a trademark, it's under a specific brand. So I am like trademarked under this sculpture, ceramics, blah, blah, blah. It's not for cosmetics.
Right.
Infringe. Not only do I have a valuable trademark now, and now that I have my 10-year, I don't have to apply again to my 20-year, which that happens at your 10 years. So the way it worked is I had to apply and show my use every year up until your 10-year, then you're good to your 20-year. So it is something to consider because you can really get yourself in a little bit of a pickle if you do have a product and then you're in a store and then somebody gets a trademark under the same name and you already have your company going. So just a little something to consider.
Do you think that is something that is say for an artist that is strictly pretty much just doing art on canvas? That's all they're really interested in.
If you're a painter, it might be harder. I've looked into that because, how do you trademark unless you have a specific look, I would say. I've looked into that.
And is that
but maybe
yours an international?
I'm trademarking. I don't believe you can trademark. No, I'm not international. So that's just here in the U.S. Yeah. But I'm happy that I did that.
Yeah, especially with your ceramics. Now, does that take into account the new abstracts that you've been working on?
No, it's not paintings.
Okay. Do you need to have that there?
I've looked into it.
See what happens.
Yeah.
I know, to shift a little bit on a topic that we've talked a little bit about before that you're passionate about too, is that of being in galleries.
So we were just talking about how now I've just shifted back into galleries. I got, in fact, pieces delivering today.
Okay.
Back to Gardner Colby Gallery, which I'm always really grateful anytime that you're in such an amazing gallery.
Mm-hmm.
They've been around forever.
Right.
And as artists, do we like to have such a big cut of our no, which has led me away from that for a really long time. However, it's really nice to have that representation. In the art world, something that I feel that's really important about the gallery business is pricing. I often felt that, let's just say you're never in a gallery or you don't sell in a gallery. How do you authentically price and value legitimately your work? Because there are a lot of places that will not let you sell on their site unless it's been authenticated gallery-wise and sales by a gallery. First dib, you have to have authentication or authentication by sales on galleries, and also it gives value to your work. So how do you price your work? So if you've sold in a gallery and your work is selling for X, I think it gives you legit credibility. Now, I'm not saying that you're not legit at all. At all. I'm saying it's a pro to selling in a gallery. Is that, do we like that they're taking a large commission? No. I also see the galleries are not doing well. New York has closed a lot of their galleries, and if you how the market does, it is very similar to the art world. So if the market's not doing well, you see a lot of the galleries not doing well. That's what is going on right now. So when the market took a dip and interest rates were going way up, a lot of the galleries in New York started to close. But that's the same thing that's going on with brick and mortar. But to me, listen, I'm a sales girl. I worked retail for 10 years. I'm a fan of brick and mortar. I still like to go, I'm not going to buy my art sight unseen, but that's just me personally. However, I do know there's a big market for online art. There's a huge market for it. And there's a lot of money to be made by selling your work online. A lot of money. With that, you have to have the capabilities of driving the traffic. So if you have the capabilities of driving the traffic to your site, then you are golden. You're really golden, because I just don't know about the confidence in galleries. I just don't know. I would never put all of my art in one place. Let's just say that.
Smart to be diversified. Right.
Okay. Now. It's like your money. Would you put all of your money in one place?
No.
No. Why put all of your art in one place? I see nothing wrong in putting a piece or two in a gallery, right? Why not?
Yeah.
The other thing that's really good about it is if you have a piece or two in a gallery, they will link up to your site. So even though your other pieces are not in their gallery, they will still try to sell them for you. So let's just say that somebody comes in, they see your artwork, and they're like, oh, well, that's interesting. They then try to promote your other work that's not in their gallery.
Yeah. I think from that standpoint, if you view it as a strategic goal to get your work into a gallery, you can leverage that to then grow and expand your online sales. And I think if you look at it that way, that's a very worthy goal to try to do that. But like you said earlier, it's not something that you need to do to validate yourself as an artist.
You don't need to be validated by that at all.
And that is a great place for us to take a little pause in this conversation. We had a fantastic time talking to Tracy Gurdian from Tovari Designs, and our conversation went a little bit longer than expected. So we're going to break this interview up into 2 parts. So we certainly invite you to come back next time for part 2, where we all talk more about how you can position yourself for success in art. Please feel free to jump right into the next episode.